My name is Micah, and over the past 2 years, I've generated over $10 million for a bunch of different e-commerce brands solely through email marketing. And today I'm going to talk about probably the most important flow or the most important flows out of all of the automations for an e-commerce brand, all the email SMS automations, would be the abandoned cart and abandoned checkout. And this is the 2026 addition to this because it does change a little bit throughout the years and strategy has adjusted as time has gone on. So let's get right into it. As I was talking about or just mentioned, this is the most important flow. If I had to pick, if you forced me to pick, if you put a gun in my head and you're like, bro, pick a flow. This is the most important. Abandoned cart, abandoned checkout. The reason being, okay, you can literally just Google this. Over 70% of shoppers at your store, on average, 70 to 77% of people abandon the carts. So if you don't have a good abandoned cart flow, you don't have a good abandoned checkout flow, you are leaving so much money on the table. And another important thing to keep in mind is there's a reason, whether they realize it or not, whether your customers realize it or not, that they are abandoning the cart, right? So even if they do not recognize that reason consciously, a lot of what email marketing is about is directly addressing those doubts that often people did not even realize they had. And that's also why it can be, you can get such great conversions, because if you're addressing a doubt people didn't realize they had, they'll be like, oh shit, okay. Like that kind of makes sense. So we're going to talk about how to do that. In this video, you'll learn exactly what emails you need to retarget all of those people who are abandoning your cart. So that includes what most people get wrong when trying to do this, what's the best strategy, what emails exactly, and then how to implement, how to set up all of this into Klaviyo. If you're not using Klaviyo, what are you doing? I mean, OmniSend is a good alternative, but we're going to stick with Klaviyo for now. Klaviyo is the best email service provider on the planet currently. Okay, first things first. First thing to realize, abandoned cart and abandoned checkout are actually two different triggers and thus two entirely different flows. So what you need to do is go into Klaviyo, pull up your metrics when you're creating flows. And you can see there is two different triggers. You can go look at this within Shopify too. There's added to cart and there's checkout started. Added to cart, we're gonna call this a cart abandoned flow. Added to checkout or checkout started is a checkout abandoned flow. There are two different steps on a Shopify store. You can add to cart and then you add the checkout. Checkout is like where the credit card information, that page is. So it's very important that you have two different flows and two different triggers. And honestly, you can have the exact same content in each flow. You just clone it over. You just need two different triggers, okay? And there's a reason that's important. That's because it will generate different amount of revenue because they're two different customer journeys. People might abandon cart and then a month later abandon checkout. It's different. So you can see here, here's an example with a different brand or just an example brand. Their abandoned cart flow is generating over $2,000 more a month than abandoned checkout. And a lot of brands, most brands that I audit, only have the checkout started trigger and they'll call it like cart abandoned, even though it's not actually a cart abandoned. And imagine if they didn't have the added to cart trigger. This brand would be leaving over $10,000 every single month on the table. So it's so important that you have both triggers enabled, right? Different flows, different revenue. Here's an overview of what the flow looks like, what we're gonna talk about and break down. I'm gonna break down the trigger, the filters, the delay time between each flow, or between each email rather. These blue emails here are graphic based and have the dynamic section, the product the person was actually viewing when they added it to cart. And then these text-based reminders, that's what the green emails are, extremely important. You can see we're sending an email every single day. You might be like, that's too much. In 2026, trust me, that is not too much. Take a look at your own inbox. How much crap do you have in there? We are competing with a lot of volume. You need to send people emails and reminders every single day while their interest is still hot. It doesn't really matter 3-4 weeks down the line, you've kind of lost their interest at that point. You need to send emails every single day. We're gonna talk about exactly what those emails are. So email one, and I have some examples from a different brand here. Graphic-based reminder and a nudge. Okay, this is meant just to remind the person right away, 30-minute delay. We'll talk about the delays again. But hey, yo, we saved your cart. This brand is about relieving pain for your feet with these insoles. So relief is one step away. This would be the dynamic section of the insole they were looking at or the product. Call to action. Also, the design happens to be good here. If you can make the design look great, better looking emails will always perform better. But we're talking about the principles here. So dynamic section at the top. I like to have this why the product works section down here, especially if you're a brand that requires a little bit more education, like this brand. This is, you might need to know a little bit more about the product and to know why like the relief is one step away, right? Where if it's a fashion brand, a clothing brand, there's less education that is required for fashion. You can usually get away with just showing the product and keeping it super simple. Another thing I like to do is have these risk reversals down here. I call them risk reversals because they're supposed to reduce the perceived risk of someone purchasing. So for this brand, it's 20K patients fitted, 90-day satisfaction guarantee, and over 350 doctors that have backed this product. That reduces the perceived risk in the mind of the customer, in the brain of the customer. For your brand, another brand, it might be completely different. It might be free shipping over $100 or $50. It might be 60-day money back guarantee, something like that. Those sort of things that are often already live on your website, you should push them in your abandonment emails because they reduce the perceived risk. And remember, the person abandoned for a reason. So maybe they were thinking, I don't trust this yet. I don't think, or subconsciously, I don't think I trust this enough. If you put stats like this down here, hard numbers, 5,000 plus 5-star reviews, 200 doctors back this, 5 patents, they're like, oh shit, like this is legit. And then reduces the risk, gets them to convert. Also, having a footer is extremely important. For this brand, they're only selling one product really, but it allows people to shop categories. So maybe they weren't interested in the product that they actually originally abandoned and they want to click down here and be like, oh, I didn't know they had pants or something like that. So having the footer is very important. But let's go to email number 2. Email number 2, this is where we're going to do a text-based reminder. So they didn't convert on the graphic-based. Let's hit them with a text-based. The reason text-based works so well is because it seems personal. It seems personal because it looks like someone just opened up their desktop, opened up Gmail, and sent you an email. And that's exactly what the format looks like as well. You can say, hi, first name, hi, Steve. I wanted to personally check in and see if there's anything we could do to help you finish your order. We've reserved your custom insoles in your cart. You can complete your order here. A little bit more risk reversal or social proof down here. I would include that. Like we've put 10 plus years into this brand and served 30,000 people, something like that. If you have any questions, feel free to hit reply or contact us here. We're always here to help out, offer that support. Again, reduces the perceived risk of purchasing and reinforces with some sort of social proof. And then signing by the founder name. So this is just a template, an example, but you kind of get the idea here. So far, between these first 2 emails, no discount, nothing like this. All we're doing is simply reminding and reinforcing with social proof why the product works, risk reversals, things of that nature, reduce the risk of purchasing, perceived risk of purchasing. Now, email number 3, this is where I'd be interested in pushing a discount. If you're comfortable, most brands, are comfortable and have some sort of discount that they can put in their abandonment emails. The reason a discount by this point makes sense for most brands is because you'd rather convert the customer on the front end or get them to convert because they're a high intent customer. They abandon cart, they abandon checkout. They're only 1 or 2 steps away from purchasing the product. You might as well convert them, right? That's usually worth it to most brands. So if you have a discount that you can push, this is where you want to push them, all right? So similar to the first email, again, graphic based that shows the dynamic product the person was looking at. But in this case, we want to highlight the offer. So surprise, enjoy $25 off, pain-free comfort, call to action, product display. I'll zoom in here a little bit. Then another call to action, again, pushing the risk reversals. Now, here is a great opportunity to explain a little bit more about the product. So previously we had a why it works section. What I like to do here with this email is a frequently asked section. So answering common questions that people have and that this person probably has when they abandon the cart. So what foot conditions can Contour insoles help with? What makes Contour insoles different from other insoles on the market? Questions that most shoppers probably have. Directly addressing those and answering those in this email is a great way. Like they probably already have these questions, they have these objections, just answer them in the email. Another great thing to do here is use social proof. So just highlight 3 to 4 really good reviews that are super specific and share a story, because people relate to specifics like that, specific details. They're like, oh my God, that's the same thing that happened for me. This person was helped in that way by this product. It will be the same for me. So social proof, frequently asked questions. That's a great way to utilize the bottom part of this email below the dynamic section, and then reminder of the discount again, and then the footer. Okay, next here we have another text-based email. You can see the format is kind of imitating or mirroring the first two emails, but in this case, it's just another push, another nudge, but we have this discount now. We have this discount as a reminder. So it's last chance from the founder. Hi, first name, your custom insoles are still in your cart, but your $25 off won't be for long. Like, you only have 12 hours left. You only have 24 hours left. Push some urgency here, and then push them to complete their order. Again, offering support. You need any questions, that's great. But here we really want to push some urgency. This is really their last chance. And using this text-based format is great because it's like, again, very personal. Hey, I'm personally extending this discount another 12 hours. So the person's like, crap, I gotta hop on that. I gotta make the best use of this extra discount, which I didn't even have to begin with. Okay, those are the emails. Now I wanna talk about a little trick you can do here because they are different flows. So should you have different emails between cart and checkout abandoned? I was mentioning before, you can literally just copy and paste it over. My recommendation would be make the email slightly different so that if someone enters the abandoned cart flow, for instance, and then a few weeks later enters the abandoned checkout flow, they don't get the exact same content. Again, I don't really think it's that big of a deal. If you're busy, you don't want to make separate emails, you can literally copy and paste the cart abandoned flow and have the separate trigger as checkout started. And I've done that for brands, it's completely fine. But if you want, just alter those discount codes a little bit, make it seem different, make it seem a little bit more unique. So if you have this discount here, relief 25 for checkout abandoned, just change it to like a custom looking code, like RWXPPY22, make it seem custom. So you can do something like that to make it change the content between the two flows, but it's not a big deal. You should get great conversions either way. All right, now let's talk about how to actually build the abandoned cart flow in Klaviyo, and then we'll touch on the abandoned checkout. So here's really everything you need to know. All right, so we have the metric added to cart. I would allow re-entry after a time period of 15 to 30 days, or if you are comfortable with people re-entering right away, then you can just allow re-entry. But I would do 15 to 30 days so they're not getting too much repeat content, right? You don't want them to be in one flow and already receiving another flow. Here's the triggers down here. So for cart abandoned, you don't want them to also be receiving the checkout started. So checkout started 0 times since starting this flow, and placed order 0 times since starting this flow. All right, so that's how I would set up the abandoned cart. And then how to do abandoned checkout, very similar, just the trigger is different. All right, allow re-entry after 30 days, and then profile filters, placed order 0 times since starting this flow. So if they order, they immediately filter out of the flow. Same for this one. And then they're not receiving any cart abandoned emails, so they're not in the cart abandoned flow, because the checkout abandoned is one step further along the funnel, whereas cart abandoned is one step earlier. You add to cart and then you add to checkout. Okay, let's talk about delay times. I touched on this a little bit before, but again, in 2026, you got to hit people quick. All right, their interest is when it's fresh, that's when it matters most, and they're going to lose that really quickly. So wait 30 minutes. I've tested this a bunch. 30 minutes is the way to go. Don't do 3 hours, 4 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour. You can A/B test it yourself if you want. I guarantee you 30 minutes will perform best. 30 minutes is the way to go. Then between each email, 1 day, not 2 days, not 3 days, not 4 days, 1 day. I've generated over $10 million for over 30 e-commerce brands. Trust me, 1 day. You don't need to wait any longer than 1 day. With different flows, it can work a little differently. Obviously, review request, post-purchase, but abandonment flows, these high intent flows, wait 1 day. You got to hit them when their interest is fresh. Okay, very important here. When you're setting up these emails in Klaviyo, make sure you, and we're going to touch on how to exactly implement them into Klaviyo, but you got to make sure that smart sending is off. So when you're building out an email, you'll see this little section right here. It says skip recently emailed profiles. You're going to want to uncheck that, because if you read the definition, it says smart sending will skip anyone who received an email within the last 16 hours. So that means if that's on, they receive an email, they receive a campaign, for instance, they're not going to get these abandonment emails. So you have to do it manually, go through each and every flow email that you set up, make sure smart sending is off. Otherwise, they're just not going to be receiving like 80% of the emails if they happen to open one. So make sure that's off. Okay, let's talk about how to actually get these in Klaviyo. So I use Figma to build all the emails and design them. I think that's the best tool out there. Hopefully you use Figma as well, but the same process for Canva or Photoshop if you're using something like that. You're gonna click the slice tool down here, and you want to slice these into separate image files. The reason being is because if you just do embedded directly into Klaviyo, the background of the email itself can actually, the formatting can be messed up depending on if the person's on dark mode on their iPhone, light mode, depending on their email service provider, or not email service provider, but like, if they're on Outlook or Gmail, their inbox provider, the email can come out looking really weird and distorted. So it's really important to slice the images, because if it's actually a hard image, then it will always look the exact same no matter who's opening the email, and look really clean and high converting and look really good on mobile too. So you want to slice images. Just make sure, as you can see, I'm doing 600 by 700 here. Make sure the image files are not too big. If I try to slice this whole entire email at once, it's going to take way too long when the person tries to open up that email. So really chop it up a little bit. So use the slice tool, break it into little slices. Then you're going to want to come to iloveimg.com to compress it. So just go to iloveimg.com, click compress image, and click compress, and you'll see for this slice example, it saved 77%. So even though it's a small image file, we just made it even smaller, so it's gonna load up really quickly when someone opens up their Gmail and views your abandoned cart email. So how do we actually set this up into Klaviyo now that we have the compressed slice or image file? We add an email, right, within following the trigger and the filters. Set that up in Klaviyo. We already went over that. Now we add an email. To add an image-based email, we click select template here. Once we're in the template builder, we go to image, drag that over to drop content, and we literally just upload that slice that we just compressed. And you're gonna wanna make sure you add alt text to any image. So just copy what the image says. So if it's a call to action to shop now, you can just say shop now in this alt text, and then you wanna add the link. We'll talk about the links in a second. There's all these dynamic links Klaviyo hits you with. For abandoned cart and abandoned checkout, the easiest thing to do is literally just do the website name /cart or website name /checkout. You gotta make sure you add those to the links though, so that any part of the email is clickable and they can go view their product. So that's image based. Now if we're doing text based, same process. Instead of clicking, you click the add email. Instead of clicking select template though, you click these three dots on the top and then click create text only email. From there, it's super simple. You literally just copy and paste your text from Google Docs or whatever you wrote the email into the text email builder. And then you're just gonna add the link, same as we did before, to the text right here. And again, it's just your website name, .com/cart or /checkout, depending on what flow it is that you're building the text-based email for. Here's the links again. So it's literally website.com/cart, website.com/checkout. Super simple. If you do end up having an issue with that, just go to klaviyo.com/support and they'll help you out and give you the exact dynamic link that you need. But 99% of the time, this is all you need to do for abandoned cart and abandoned checkout. Super simple. Okay, last thing is, how do we optimize these once we get these flows live, all right? And testing is really important. Here is a screenshot of why you should test. So you can see here for a brand, I was testing between subject line with the abandoned cart email. So this is the first email. Between your statement piece is waiting and your order is ready to ship. Your order is ready to ship as a subject line is a little bit more like crap. It's like ready to go. It's a little bit more urgency. And you can see number-wise, open rate and click rate, the numbers were very similar, except revenue was incredibly different, and it's all the angle that the subject line is using here. So it's like similar amount of opens, about 340, similar amount of clicks, about 30, but over double the amount of revenue, right? Over double amount of revenue, similar delivered as well. So A/B testing your content like that is really important, and always optimize for revenue, because at the end of the day, you're trying to see what makes the most money. So you should be A/B testing. I try to do at least 3 A/B tests on every account. So if you're a brand, you should be running 3 A/B tests every week if you can. If not, maybe every month. But subject line is a great thing to do. You can A/B test the length of your emails, all different sorts of things you can A/B test. The main thing is you just should be testing, because you'll always find something that works better, and then you can test that against something new. So subject line is a great one. How to do that? So if you want to emulate what I was doing here, right? You click on that first email, click over here to create A/B test down here. So click first email, click create A/B test, and it's super easy. You want to test the subject line, and that's honestly probably what I'd recommend starting out with for an abandoned cart, abandoned checkout, because that's what people see in their inbox. Makes a big difference. So you just literally open up these 2 little folders here once you click create A/B test, and then you have the subject line input. So your custom insoles await, and then I changed the B variation. So this is the control. I changed the B variation to you left this behind, just to try something else. It's super simple. That's how you do it. Now, if you want to change what the winning metric is, if you do want to do that, you can click configure here, because by default, it's usually going to be click rate. So you can change it to open rate. But I always just like to look, again, like I was saying earlier, at the revenue itself, because I want to see what makes more money. But if you are interested, you can change click rate or open rate, whatever you want. For a subject line A/B test, I'd probably go with open rate, because you want to see which subject line gets more opens. If you're testing content though, like long, short, where you're putting the buttons, it probably makes more sense to test click rate, because click rate has much more to do with content than open rate, if that makes sense. But it will depend on your brand, your situation, how you're building the emails, etc. Okay, so that's pretty much everything for this one. I know we went over a lot, but I will drop this Gamma doc below so you can take a look at it on your own time. If you have any questions at all, feel free to email me right here, mike@incendo.co, and I'm happy to help you out. And if you want more information similar to this, I built out a lot of content and YouTube videos and tutorials about design, about like campaign strategy, flows, more than just these abandoned cart and abandoned checkout. I have a lot of stuff on my YouTube, LinkedIn and Twitter. I'm posting frequently, so shoot me a follow, connect with me, and I'd be happy to help you out. Also, if you are a brand yourself, run an e-commerce brand, or know someone running an e-commerce brand doing $50,000 a month or more in revenue, and you don't want to do all of this yourself, you'd rather just have someone do it for you, book a consultation call with me. I will audit your brand completely for free and break down all of the flows, not just your abandoned cart and abandoned checkout, but everything on your account, and provide that to you absolutely free of charge, so you can have that value. And if we do want to end up working together and that makes sense, we can absolutely do that. So I'll leave this again in the description below if that's of interest to you. That's all for this one. Looking forward to making the next one, and I'll catch you guys in a bit. Peace.